So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Shootout Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Baxter, and today is episode 21 of the series. And today we've got an incredible guest, who's an artist at Ubisoft. We got I've already about to butcher it. So, Jacob Claussen, yeah.
Jacob Claussen, yes.
Yes, I nailed it. Perfect. So thanks, man. How's it going?
It's going good.
Perfect. Thanks so much for coming on. I'm really looking forward to talking to you today. It's going to be a great conversation. So
thanks for having me.
Anytime. It really means a lot. So everyone who's listening, as always, folks, if you're new to the podcast, we are live on 9 other platforms alongside YouTube. So we are currently live on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and finally Stitcher. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to press the subscribe button. That'll be much appreciated, and obviously make sure you leave a like, and it'll really help the channel. And as always, the one I always forget, make sure to select the notification bell if you want to be notified every week about the podcast that is obviously updated live on a Sunday and a Monday. And also, if you're new to the podcast, the one thing I've always done is give any artist, doesn't matter what level you are, a shout out. So this week's shout out, we've got 2 artists. So we've got Justin Dolan, who makes a lot of awesome different artwork, from 3D art to rigging. And I'll highlight his artwork right now, so you'll be able to see his work. So make sure to go give him a follow. Keep killing it, man. You're making really awesome rigs. I really love it. And secondly, but not means least, we've got Aaron Humphreys, who is a character artist, and he creates a range of different artwork, from stylized characters, and to my favourite personally is his creature design for animals and so forth. So these are 2 artists that I recommend to go give it a chance and check out their work and see what you think. But with all that said, let's get into the podcast. So, awesome. Hello again. We're back. Back to the main discussion. So as always, man, basically we always just start off with a good introduction about yourself. So just tell us a wee bit about yourself. What do you do, and what got you into art, I guess.
Okay, so a short version is I'm a 3D artist right now at Ubisoft. Before that, I was at Starby Studios as an environment artist. And I started out in the career as started like an indie studio with friends during university. So that was basically my start into the industry.
Okay.
Then I have like a deeper
like a more in-depth story.
Yeah.
Wait, did you say it was an indie game that you were into, that you started off with? Or was
it? That's so I think it was the first year. After the first year in school, we were some students that didn't know what we did, or like had basically no clue what how to do games. So we started to work on a game every Sunday.
Awesome.
And that formed into a company a couple of years later.
Brilliant. I guess that was a great thing, because obviously, like, at the end of the day, you're doing it with people that you want to be with, you know what I mean? And like, it plays such a huge part when it comes to like the passion thing. Like, even if it's like something fresh, like, just give it a go. Because so I live in Scotland, and there's a lot of people. So I went to a place called Aberdeen University, and basically, the majority of the students there were like game students, and literally, no joke, like, there's been about 20 small companies started over the years because of people just branching out and making their own things. And at the end of the day, it's like they're making the art that they want to do, and they're with people that they want to be with. So it's always a good thing to start off with, and it gives you experience. And
so
on you go.
We were kind of lucky because right next to the school we had an incubator who set us up with like a studio and helped us with finance and taught us basically how to run a company. And also got us to go to GDC and all the other big game conference.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really good experience.
Wait, so was it Sweden that you studied in? Whereabouts did you study? Because it was
At a small town called Skövde.
Okay.
Which is so my university was like a focus on more research and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say like when it comes to 3D, we didn't get that much of learning.
Okay.
So it was more about the analyzation of video games and so on. Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, on you go. Keep finishing. Sorry.
Yeah, so it wasn't that of a get ready to the industry university.
Because because what I'm reading here is so you did a bachelor's degree in media, aesthetic, and narration field of study.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. That's also the crazy thing as well, because like obviously that's a different take when it comes to getting into the industry, but it's like I say every time I ask like somebody to come on, it's like everyone's like game title or like every title's slightly different. There's like no like specific title, if that makes sense, which obviously makes sense, but like you've obviously tackled it from a different side, and obviously like you said, it's like it's not made you like instantly ready, but it's like helped you in a different way.
Yeah, I would say for me personally, it was kind of a good thing to go there because I didn't know what 3D was.
Oh, really? Okay.
When I applied, I didn't know what Maya was. I didn't know what Unreal or Unity was.
All the big softwares.
Yeah, I had no clue. So I went in kind of like as an experiment, and this school we had 3D and it was very basic. So I think for me personally, it was quite good. And then I did online courses and stuff like that also to add
awesome.
to add to the learning.
I'm really happy that you said that as well, because the one thing so far in the podcast, it's been very university sided so far. So like in terms of like I always like to cover both university and online courses. And one of the main things that I've realized is that like obviously like both of them are great, but having like a deeper perspective from the online courses would be great to hear. And since obviously you've tackled things from a different perspective, it'll really allow us to go in more depth. So as always, so obviously like I was able to send you the questions that I always do on the podcast. So this is going to be a wee bit different since based on what you just said there. But when it comes to, I guess, university, what do you wish you learned when you were studying at university? Was there anything that you think would, like, obviously you're a 3D artist, so it's an environment art you specialize in. So is there anything particularly that you think would have been beneficial to learn back then?
Yeah, that's like the $1 million question. Because you always go back and think like, what could I do differently? And then you don't know if that would change everything.
Yeah.
But I think for me personally, I think I know a lot of people use that term like study smart. I was one of those that sit through the night and during the day and kind of just smashed against the wall instead of really analyzing and thinking how I can use shorter time of period during the day to do what my goal is. So I think study smart, but I think that's hard also to realize early in your career, because I think it's a little bit like a teenager or a young adult thing to really just go with the head first, and then when you get older you start like realizing that there is another way to go about learning.
Yeah, because like you learn from like by over exaggerating things or overdoing things through over practice. Because like I like this is the one thing that I've always talked about on the podcast, is the sense that I'm not like so when you were at uni, did you feel like you had the pressure to work, or did you just naturally, because obviously we all we all want to do well in life and we want to work hard, do the best that we can, but when you're at university, did it feel like that you just like you had to work really hard, or were you just like going with it?
So my problem with I had at the university was there was no real preparation for the industry, like the how much you need to really know. So I was kind of like I would say the first year I was very nervous and very like eager to jump ahead, like where everyone else was.
Yeah.
But I realized quite quickly that there was nobody really to chase, or what you can call it. But then I was very lucky to find a person who I hadn't talked to in the completely first year in my class, because he's been brushing during the first year.
All right. Okay.
And like when I saw his stuff, he's called his name is Josef Storyboy.
Awesome.
And when I saw his stuff, I was like, oh, I need to pick up some pace. So for me, it was kind of nice to have someone to look up to, or to like, have the same goals.
Definitely, because like, well, that was the exact same as me. I think it applies to, like, obviously it depends of like I was very fortunate in the sense that I always knew what I wanted to do. In terms of 3D, because it was actually Tintin that got me into 3D.
Tintin, yeah.
Oh, I'm obsessed with Tintin.
Yeah, I read it a lot when I was a kid.
I absolutely love it. It's like, I'm really hoping they still follow through with making the second film. It's just that I think they're already like 7 years behind.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going to happen with that. But when it came to like similar story to you, so we had an incredible artist. He's a great friend, and his name's Yannick. He's from Germany, and Yannick was he was just such a craftsman, absolutely amazing person, really good at what he does. But he really set the bar for, I think, the year as a whole, for people to just be like, right, we've got to just improve overall. And I think so. At the end of the day, like, so the main reason like I'm bringing this up and carrying on this point is the fact that, so it's healthy competition. You have to make sure that you have to compare yourself to other people, but in a good way, and make sure you're helping each other. And
yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly. Because like at the end of the day, like I've said many times before in the podcast, like, you should never be jealous of anyone. You should be enjoying your art, having fun with it, and if you don't know something, you just ask, and you reach out, and you branch out, and you grow. And like you said there, with your friends, it inspired you to do better.
Yeah, and then after the first year, I found a website called Polycount that helped me tremendous. It was so cool because I mean, like, everyone in your class is not a finished artist when it comes to industry.
Yeah.
And our school didn't really get in any industry people, so I had so many questions. Like, I can still remember, like, looking day and night for simple questions that I would have an answer to now. But back then it was finding Polycount and be able to, like, read through a work in progress scene was really, really good for me. Like, and that for me, it was also kind of like, I was longing for like something like this, a podcast where you can listen to 3D artists or environment artists, because back then it was more in the concept realm of podcasts.
Oh, right, okay. Wait, so how long is so like what podcasts did you watch when you were studying, or like what did like, I know Art Cafe's been around for a while, but how long have you done art for?
So I went to university 2012, I think.
Okay.
And yeah, so my first contact to the industry was Polycount, probably, and then I start finding like a podcast, and the two ones I found and still listen to is collective podcast from Ashtorp and then Art Cafe.
Awesome.
And they kind of form me, I think, in a certain way. For me, it's quite important to have inspiration from artists that that maybe has a couple of years ahead of you, so you can listen to their path. And I think podcast is a really good way to do that, because then you get like a little bit more raw version of it, and also a more personal version of it.
Definitely, because it's like, I think, like, I'm not sure when it came to, like, well, obviously you kind of technically already answered this, but it's like, so at the end of the day, it's all about connections and getting to know people, and like finding obviously your way in the door. And through podcasts, I guess, it's like you said, it helps you kind of develop a relationship with the guest, even though you don't know them, but you're kind of understanding what they did, how they did it, and where they've come from, and they've given it from a perspective kind of you can do it. Like, there's always a way to get the job you want. You just have to find like the right path and the right answers. And
Yeah.
No, on you go.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and I think it's super hard in the beginning to really know if you're doing right, or which path to take. Because I can remember me being very like unsure. Who am I as an artist? And I think hearing like the beginning of the artist you look up to is super rewarding, because then you see they were where you were at now, and I think that's super important for people that start out.
Definitely, because like I think everyone always like obviously we naturally as artists, like we have like we put this pressure on ourselves to obviously do well and stuff, and like we have this career ambitions, as in like say we want to work, for example, like Ubisoft. We want to work at I don't know, like my ultimate dream is Weta Digital one day. Like we have all these different ideas of or ambitions that we want to achieve, and we're like trying to answer the question of how do we get there. And when you realize like at the end of the day, like most of these stories that you hear from, like for example Art Cafe and stuff, you can tell that it kind of just was like is based on like two main things, and it's basically just working hard and like for me personally it's like asking questions. Like that's always been like the two sort of pillars that I've based like my own career around. Like I've always thought like you should always just work hard and just keep asking until you learn. So it's like those are the things that are always been key with me.
Yeah, and I think also like I usually say like being uncomfortable is the best feeling, because then it's when you learn.
Yeah.
So finding new ways to be uncomfortable when it comes to art is super important, I think, because then you know you're evolving.
Yeah.
As an artist.
No, that's a great point. Yeah. No, continue.
Yeah, and I think when you start out, you don't really know that. So I think a skill to have, or something to I would tell myself when I was younger, is like really enjoy being uncomfortable is a good thing, because I think that was when I realized like I can do this. Is when I understood that I can learn new things instead of just being comfortable with the same thing over and over.
Like it's like you have to have like a healthy sort of like pressure and like a healthy stress level, just to make it show that you're committed and getting on with the work.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it comes down to like make sure that you're passionate and finding the thing that you want to do. So obviously, like the main things that we got from there. So obviously, so what did you want to get? Like what did you wish you learned when you were at university? So basically, it was getting more insight onto how the industry runs. So like, the workflows and stuff.
Yeah, but also, I mean, like back then, like sitting through the nights and like not caring about health or stuff like that. I think that's something I think podcasts like this are kind of good to listen to people that went through that.
Yeah.
Because you don't talk about it that much when you're a student, but when you get older, you like to say it to people that start out to like really think about your health and stuff. And I think it's kind of cheesy to listen to.
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah.
I remember myself like getting really bad health with my hands and stuff, like carpal syndrome.
Oh,
if you
wow.
heard of that.
Yeah, gee whiz, ouch.
Yeah, and that was almost like a career breaker for me because I couldn't work anymore.
Yeah, that's like proper. That's like arthritis combined with, well, not arthritis, but it's like, yeah, that ouch. Like
Yeah,
because I use one of those do you know like the raised mouse pads?
yeah,
Because like I wasn't like anywhere near what you had, but it's like I know what you mean, and I think like that's the crazy thing as well. Because so I did a podcast with an artist called Ben Nicholas.
yeah. I know him. He's a really good person
Uh,
who talks about these things.
absolutely amazing guy, and like that's why like I'm really happy you brought it up, because when it comes to like just your health in general, like I don't understand why people like, obviously it depends, like obviously I kind of understand, but it's like it's okay to be open, like be yourself, and like, if you're struggling with something, then go and ask for help, even if it only takes one person to relieve stress, or to at least get something off your chest. Like with the main thing I brought up in a few podcasts was so it was a very like sort of like battle with suicide thoughts.
Yeah,
And but I've always been a very like positive kind of outlooking person, even though I was going through like a certain I guess dark time, but I've also always approached life with a very kind of positive, have fun kind of attitude. And it's making sure that it's what Jacob just said there was basically when it comes to diet, it's such a huge part. Like food, it's so important. Getting outside, fresh air. Like I was the same as you, man. Like I was glued to my seat in my bedroom. Like,
yeah,
I survived off pizza.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure you probably did the same. Like Domino's in Scotland, happy days. That was my go-to.
Yeah, and I mean I think it's just not the food. It's also like training, like
Yeah,
movement, and that's like going outside. It doesn't have to be like the you don't have to be like a sport athlete. I
yeah,
think it's just being outside, taking in nature. Also, I think something we never talk about, or I think it's usually talked about food and movement, but also the mind is super important.
yeah.
So have the social contacts and sleep enough, and try to not always get information into your head. Like try to breathe sometimes,
Yeah, yeah, because you have
and
to.
that's some yeah. Sorry.
No, no, on you go.
Yeah, yeah, that's something I'm doing more and more, like trying to find ways to step away sometimes and just not do anything.
Yeah, because it's the small things that are the biggest things, and I've always found it weird because I'm not sure if it's a phrase, like in Sweden and so forth, but it's like that's always been a thing I heard which I don't understand. It's like people always say it's the small things that matter the most, but the things that we call the small things are actually the most important, which is your health,
Yeah,
which is like your body and stuff, which is like just being energetic. Like because I got myself into a loop where like when you said about the social aspect, so when I was in fourth year, for some reason, right? So I would go into the main hall. So we have this massive hall called White Space. So
yeah,
basically, it's like this place where all the artists go at the university just to do art. And for some
yeah.
reason, I would go into that room, and I was so socially awkward. Like I got to a state that I was so socially awkward that I kept thinking people were looking at me. I had
Yeah,
this weird sort of like I was just like curled up, like what's going on, and that's never happened to me before. Like I've always been like such a confident person, and until that realization of like what on earth am I doing, like it was crazy. And then I just stepped back and started enjoying things more.
yeah. But I mean, I had the same thing, like kind of like disconnected from the world,
Hmm.
and I put up rules for myself to 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 create a better framework for learning, and
Yeah,
I feel like that's maybe something I would want to say to me myself, like when I started out, and that's like the rule of getting enough sleep and having social days
hmm,
at least once a week, or also I go outside every day,
yeah,
like after work I do a long walk, for example, and in the morning also.
awesome.
So I think all those things you take a little bit for granted when you start out.
Like another weird thing with me is which obviously you, like you said, you did as well, and I'm pretty sure everyone's a culprit of it. But it's like when you said about patterns there, all artists tend to be like night owls.
Yeah.
And the only
I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, it's mental, but it's like for example, it's like staying up till 5 a.m. to like crunch workout, and it's like, why do you have to do that? It's like,
so I had that, and I had also same like the same argument that all artists has, that I can only create after 11 o'clock, and that was basically true for me during my whole my university time. And then I realized, like, oh shit, work is not in the night if I'm going to a studio. And I realized that for me personally, I was longing for the silence and maybe the loneliness when I do art, and so I shifted instead, and I go to bed early and go up super early. And I have a couple of hours before work to do my art now.
Because like it's like I'm not sure what created this habit, but it's like everyone does it. And then like the other thing I don't like, and when it comes to just art in general, is like the term crunch. Like people keep saying, like for example, when people are doing like their university and stuff, and like they're staying up really late, but then they're crunching it, as in like they're doing crazy hours. And I think the one thing I wish people did better, especially students, I was good at it in the sense that, because I'm just not a lazy person, but in the sense that, like, I don't understand when people are choosing a project or a thing to do for their university and they decide to make it so late on, like they delay it, and they keep waiting, and then because of all that panic building up, they then they're putting pressure on like the teachers to like ask for more time or whatever, and it's about a balance and making sure you can get that consistency of right, I need to get the work done, I need to sleep correctly. Obviously, if you're a night owl, like personally, I believe obviously everyone has their own thoughts, but I don't believe there's such thing as a morning owl or a night owl.
Same here.
I personally think it's a choice of you either get out of bed or you don't.
I think it's just habit, because nowadays I feel like I overslept when I wake up at 6 o'clock. So and back in the days I was up to 6 o'clock. So that totally shifted for me, and I think that's just habit. But when it comes to this about not doing like your stuff in school at time, I think that's just bad planning, and crunch is always the reason for crunch is always bad planning, and you see it in companies also. So so it's not only students that makes that
mistake.
That's a mistake.
It could be great. On you go.
No. So
I was just gonna say, like, it'd be great if I personally just wish people stopped using the word, because like at the end of the day, it's you just have to realize as a student and just as a person, it's down to you to get what you want out of it, and you shouldn't have to like if you love art, like you shouldn't have to wait till closer to the deadline to get art done. And obviously I'm not saying that if you are waiting it, then maybe you're not as passionate as you thought you are, but the reason I wanted to bring this up is because it's like we've discussed, it's like your health matters, and you want to enjoy the art. Like, that's the main thing. You want to have a blast making the art. Like I was literally just geeking out before this podcast because Jacob was telling me about an art piece that he's doing. I'm not going to say anything because it's like I can't wait till this art piece get released. It's going to be badass. I can't wait.
I mean, you can say what it is.
Are we? Okay, awesome. Yeah. So he's making, like, everyone knows on the podcast, I am a Harry Potter geek. I love it to bits, and he's making the Great Hall, and the fact it's not just the Great Hall, it's on Christmas Day, even better.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait. And that's another thing. So everyone who's listening to the podcast, make sure to go give him a follow, by the way. As always, on the podcast, I always do like a slideshow on the back. And so it includes So I'll include your Twitter. Is there any your ArtStation, any kind of other links you want me to share?
I mean, I do 2D art also, but that's more on Instagram.
Okay. I'll include that as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And yeah, Harry Potter has been always a big thing for me also.
I could lose so much sidetrack on this because I'll talk about it for ages.
Yeah, and like this project is also kind of interesting because it started out when I was still at university.
Yeah.
And I had too little knowledge to realize the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So it was put on hold, and then you always start Unreal and see all the unfinished projects.
Yeah.
And then I saw it in the fall of last year, and I was like, yeah, it's time to finish this. And then when I opened it, I realized it's I can't do anything with it, so I had to restart the project. But yeah, now it's coming to an end finally.
Wait, so how close are you? Are you like a few weeks or a month? Or a few months?
So I would say like 3 weeks left probably.
Awesome.
I'm not sure if I want to release it now or I'll wait for Christmas.
No pressure. I can't wait.
I haven't decided yet. I have so many projects at the same time. I usually do right now I have 3 projects. So for me, it's especially now when I feel like I'm kind of like where I want to be.
Yeah.
In Ubisoft. It's more about trying out new things. So I've been doing this 2D thing for a while now, and I kind of started that when I was done with university 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I could apply my way of studying it better, and it's kind of interesting to see how you can go along differently.
Definitely.
So instead of sitting many hours every day with it, I've been doing a couple of hours, 1 or 2 hours every day for 2 years, and you can really see the result of that.
Is that the same stuff? So do you know on your blog on ArtStation?
Yeah, that's my.
That's the same
drawings.
stuff. Yeah, because I was checking out today. That was no, that's awesome. Because that's another thing. I wish. Obviously, there's this always obviously people argue this one all the time, but obviously if you like concept art, you like drawing. I personally think it's a massive benefit. But obviously it's not a requirement to becoming an environment artist in 3D. But
yeah,
I think it makes you have a better idea how to visualize things, being able to capture a concept piece and create your own work, or being able to create a concept piece from scratch of you know what I mean, being able to see the shapes and being able to understand what's going. It's so important.
Yeah, it comes down to learning the fundamentals, and that's probably what I would also tell myself early in a career, study fundamentals, because you hear it all the time and you're like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
And you start realize later, the deeper your fundamentals goes, the more you can pick from when you do your art pieces.
Yeah.
So now I'm full into to learn fundamentals and go deeper with them, and that's what. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I keep doing this to you. Sorry, on you go. I think it's always the interesting thing when it comes to the podcast, because everyone who's listening at the moment, when it comes to the guests, it's always into connection stuff. So I've turned off the camera just so it's a bit different when it's I'm talking and you're talking. It's I can't see if you're moving your mouth.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. But yeah, so that's why I persist with my 2D art also. I for me personally, I need new challenges with my art. As I told you earlier, I went into 3D art in school without knowing what 3D was. I didn't know what Maya or Unity or UDK was when I started out. I applied for school because I wanted to work for Pixar, basically.
All right, okay, awesome.
Because I'm a big movie watcher.
Same. You can't beat films.
Yeah, so for me it was basically I do the game thing to come into the movie industry, and now I'm sold on games when it comes to creating. I'm still really like movies, and for me with movies I can get out a little bit when I do drawings is like doing maybe the more cinematic picture frames that you see in movies.
Yeah.
And so I'm still like looking into that, and then I'm like trying to find new challenges
Awesome.
Around everything.
Cause like that's like the same same thing with me. So like I'm pretty much going into the route. So like I'm trying to get into games and film. Obviously, like my ultimate dream would be wet at digital, but I've actually got an interview tomorrow.
Oh, congratulations!
I can't wait to. So I'm not going to say anything until I make sure I get it. But
yeah. I was the same with Ubisoft. I was complete silent.
I just wanted to make sure. Like, I want to make sure I get it before I like release. Like the same thing with the podcast. Like so, when it comes to this podcast, I'll release it in probably I think Tuesday, if that's right. Just so you know, it's just because obviously I want to make sure I prioritize. I'm ready for the interview. I can't wait for it. I'm really excited. But I'll let you know what studio it is after the podcast.
Yeah.
I do have an important question. What house are you in Harry Potter? Do you know?
So that's like.
I'm Slytherin.
Yeah, so I'm like Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. Like I jump between them all the time.
Awesome.
I would say.
Like I guess the thing though is like I think I'm very. I just wanted to bring up this question because I was like, it's a fun topic. Might as well bring it up. You can't get enough Harry Potter because when I first did it, right, I was Ravenclaw on Pottermore, and when I did it second time, I was Slytherin. But the one thing I think changed was just because I chose a different cat.
Okay.
And I was like, "This is what's going on here." So it was an interesting perspective. But before I lose sight on the podcast, I better get because I'll generally keep talking about Harry Potter for ages.
We can do like a Harry Potter podcast.
Oh my God! Don't tempt me. We should definitely do that. I'll hold you to it for the future. Right.
Yeah,
So we've actually covered these three questions really in depth, but so obviously you said that you weren't really learning that much about 3D, or you weren't really introduced to it whilst at university. But in terms of like what the main thing about university is obviously like there's benefits as well. Like the common ones being obviously you get to meet new people and stuff. But I'm gonna try and make it a bit more difficult for you because obviously I get like a lot of people kind of obviously say the same thing. But has there been anything beneficial at university that, or anything that you think is benefiting about going to university that's maybe a wee bit different? Like,
for sure. Like for me, like here in Sweden, we do it basically for free. You just pay for rent and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that. Right? Okay, nice.
So I think for me it was. I think when you start out like as a young adult, you need to move away a little bit from your childhood and teenage years to evolve. And I think some people do traveling, and I think some do studying. And I think both are valid things to evolve a little bit, because I think you need like the aloneness a little bit to evolve, and just not as an artist, but also as a person. So for me, it was a really good way of being on my own and starting to take responsibility.
Yeah, like finding who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, I couldn't bear the person I would been before the university. So I'm quite happy that I went there and met new people and got new influence. And I mean, like even students there shaped me to the person I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I have like inspirations from the same years as me, and I think sometimes. Which I can understand in America, when you pay a lot of money, there is a kind of a hostile view on studying at university. But I think if you're in a country where you have the possibility to study for lesser money, then it's a kind of a value thing. But then of course you have probably better schools. So I would maybe do more research because I went and taught a little bit at another school here in Sweden, and I could really tell the difference.
Like
those students
standard.
like those students was like industry ready,
Mm-hmm.
and they were in the first year.
Like,
Maybe not. Yeah, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, based on your point there about like the price thing, the one thing that kind of I think shook a lot of people. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but did you watch Noah Bradley's video?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him.
Like, absolutely amazing artist, and but I agree with everything that he said. If you know what I mean, in the
Mm.
sense that, like, obviously, like, I think America is a very, like, I love the idea of America, but I still think it's very daunting in the sense that there's a lot of, like, I would like it, not only pressure, but it feels like there's like so much money that you have to pay just to get like the basics,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
I was
just crazy.
like, yeah. For me, I've been always like an America fan. I wanted to move to America.
Yeah.
Like that was my end goal. Uh, I remember like in the first year, I didn't really know what in 3D I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I did like characters and environments, and I did hand painted stuff and everything. But then I played that game, probably everyone heard of, called The Last of Us.
Oh yeah.
And,
Oh yep.
and that kind of shaped me into an environment artist.
Yeah, because you literally, like, when I see your portfolio, I literally think Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
this guy is obsessed with Naughty Dog, and I love it. You can't go wrong. Because like you've got like an art piece that's like one for Last of Us, one for Uncharted, one for Red Dead Redemption. Oh well, Red Dead Redemption's not Naughty Dog; they're Rockstar. Sorry, but it's like it all has that same sort of aesthetic.
Yeah, and I mean, like, when I do my scenes, I have a kind of a particular way to do it, and that's looking to the industry and trying to aim for the industry. So I usually pick kind of like a studio's style or studio's idea of quality when I do my pieces, and it's always been around like Naughty Dog and Assassin's Creed franchise, and now latest was Red Dead Redemption.
So did you? I was just gonna say, did you? So when you were at university, did you know, like, through just like passion wise what you were gonna do, as in like what kind of art you wanted to do, or did university encourage any of that?
No, it was kind of tricky for me because it's always like the question, how do you find your own style? And it's that thing that was bothering me, like how can I define like my style? And I come up now with I think it depends or it comes down to your inspirations. So
Yeah.
I think the more inspirations you gather, the more like broader it can be.
Yeah.
Because I mean nothing is like created from nothing. So I think everyone find their inspiration from somewhere, and I started to look on my inspiration, like the people that inspired me, to look where they found their inspiration, and you could start seeing patterns and stuff like that.
And
so that was
coming together.
quite interesting. Yeah, quite interesting. And I think that's how you find like new styles. For example, like when you take Last of Us and combined it with like sci-fi, you get Horizon Zero Dawn, which was kind of like completely new for people.
Yeah.
And I love that idea, because usually people are very, in the beginning, very eager to totally find something new without any reference or anything. But I think the more reference you have, the better.
Yeah.
The deeper
definitely.
and better stuff you can create.
Because it's like, for example, when it comes to, like, I guess, inspiration for me, it's always been like, it's similar to what you said, but like to me, I always just make art that I know I'm gonna have a blast making. Like, it sounds so obvious, but like I'm just like for example, if I see a concept art piece, I'm like, that's so cool, I'm making that, or I'm gonna add my own twist to it. Like my favorite artist is like, so if I had to say like my four favorite artists right now, it'd be John Howe, Alan Lee, so the two from Weta Digital, and then Feng Su, and then a guy called Mark Lee. So it's like I really, like, I have this obsession with like I love details. I love like big complex silhouettes, but well, I'd say like just focusing on like really cool forms and shapes and stuff. But I'm still not. I wouldn't say like I don't have my own style. I wouldn't say like, well, I don't know, like it's kind of hard to tell. Like I know what I like, if you know what I mean. But I think, do you think people put too much of pressure on trying to find a style? Like, because to me, it's just all about having fun. Like I've always been like, if I'm gonna enjoy it, then I'm just gonna make it. Like I don't feel like I should have to have a style.
No, I think it's something that comes natural of the time. Like you need to do something for a long time to get your own style, and the less you think about it, the more the less hard it's going to be. So I think it's just finding your niche and like finding those things that really inspire you, and just try to create as much as possible.
Definitely.
I can feel like the more pieces I do, the more defined style I get, and I'm quite early still, I feel
like.
So for me it's like I have probably 10 pieces left before I can say I have a style.
Yeah, until it all forms into place. Like, well, like the one thing I realized that you've done, like I've not done yet, and I think a lot of people. So if you're listening to now, this is one thing I think you should really give a go, and it's the ArtStation Challenge. So, you've done 3 of them, I've realized. Yeah, so you've done Beyond Human, absolute badass piece, really cool. The Wild West, I literally just saw it today. It was like, that's like it's so clean, so cool. Really loved that piece. And it looks like it's also like you can see like the progression from that piece to where you are now as well. Like it's like
that was also a little bit more stylized, and it was like a new trying something different.
Yeah, because like I think when it comes to like the getting yourself out there and stuff, and like just making a wee bit of a name for yourself, I think like these things are a great thing just to even just get questions answered. Like, do you think you said earlier about poly count? Like when you put your stuff on the ArtStation Challenge, like there's going to be tons of people seeing it, and like people are going to be critiquing your work and giving you feedback. And like the awesome thing about like for example, seeing your Beyond Human piece, like you can really see how you did it. And it's like when you said you're at university, you didn't have that resources really out there to really tell you how to make 3D. And seeing like your breakdowns of how you did things, like the snow, by the way, oh my god, that's so cool. Like that's so awesome.
I can say that is thanks to Jacob Norris from he was at Nordlog before. He has a really good tutorial for people to check out there.
Wait, so what's his name again? Sorry.
Jacob Norris.
Jacob Norris. Right, I'll make sure to include that as well in the comments.
Yeah, it's a super good tutorial.
Awesome.
And I mean that's the nice thing now, is like you can find anything online.
Yeah.
And I when I started out, like because I know you have like the question between like online course and university.
Yeah, that's the big one. That's the big scary one.
Yeah, and I so.
Do you want to actually do it now? Do you want
to?
Sure.
Yeah. Or did you have other questions about?
So
because I can talk a little bit about ArtStation Challenge also, why I think it's good.
So far, well, the first 3 we've pretty much nailed. So the last one, like if you want, actually it'd be pretty cool to hear about your thoughts on ArtStation Challenge before we get into the creme de la creme of the podcast. Yeah,
so I think also the good thing you took up, like you getting critique, and also you have to show your work in progress. But I think it's also people gonna ask you question how you did sort of stuff, and I think you learn so much teaching other people or giving people tips on how to do stuff, because then you have to think again how you did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with the level 80 coming up, or communities, like I can just go briefly into to when I was really stuck as an artist, and that was it was just 3 years ago, or 4 years ago now, 2015 I think. It was like we had our indie studio, and we did like hand painted stuff, and I mean that was fun, but I didn't feel like that was my calling.
Yeah.
For that moment, and poly count was starting to die out, and ArtStation took over, and there was no real community where people like could like push like each other up. But then I found like I don't know if you heard of Dynasty community.
Dynasty, what is that? Is that an old one or is that a new one? Because I've
That's
never
a,
heard of it.
it's kind of new one. It's a Discord channel
Oh right,
where
okay.
it was started by a senior at the massive Ubisoft called Jeremy,
Is
and
it sort of like a forum workflow, but on Discord, or is it different to
yeah.
poly count?
So when I joined a couple of years ago, it was him doing streams every two times a week or something, and then also giving critique to people.
Okay.
And it was so rewarding to see a senior work for the first time. Like I had never seen a senior or like a person in AAA work and streaming it. So that caught me, and then I started to post my stuff. And basically, before, like I don't have any art pieces before that, so kind of that community and the critiques, and also giving critiques that form me in one or another sense.
Awesome.
So I think finding communities is super important, especially when you start out.
So do you so obviously you're saying, wait, so that's Dynasty, yeah?
Yeah, Dynasty.
So there's Dynasty, Art Station Challenge, and what other ones mainly stand out to you? Like poly count or?
I would say also like let me see.
I'll put you on the spot.
I think also I think it's important to do it in real life also. We had something I really liked, like in the old town I lived in, we had like every Wednesday we went and painted. Like
oh right, okay.
Like a real art cafe. So we went after work and painted in a cafe.
That's awesome.
For some hours. So I think finding different ways to create with people, because I remember every time after those things, or just now meeting new people or old friends, you always go away with a new inspiration to create.
Yep.
Because if you sit inside and just create, you tend to like become very like tired of your piece, and you're feeling like you are not progressing.
Yeah.
So I think finding that like that, just not always like put out stuff, but also take in stuff sometimes is good.
Yeah, because like it's that feedback that you need, and also it's like that also boost of encouragement. Also, like I said there, because like when you're like, obviously we all enjoy art and stuff, and we do it because we love it, but you also want to, like, nothing beats doing it with other people. Like having like a group of people that love what you do is like, you can't beat that. Like that's what you want to be. That's like the environment that you want to be around, and that's the healthy environment at the end of the day. Like you're not stuck in just working away. Obviously, like we all want our chill time and just to relax and stuff and do it like an art piece on our own. Like that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's what makes it worthwhile when you're doing it with others.
Yeah, and I mean, like when I remember when I start out, I wanted to be alone and keep for my own and stuff. But then you have to realize that if you want to go to the industry, game development is a team effort. So the quicker you get comfortable with that, the easier it's going to be to jump into the industry.
Yeah.
Because it's so rewarding to be open when you come to a studio. Like when I was at Starbase, it was super fun to just jump between the different people and learn. Like I talked a lot with the concept artist because it was in the time when I started to paint, and I got so much good like feedback and inspiration from them, and then like talking to the designers and learn their way and being interested in how they think. I think the more open you are to the other disciplines, the better artist you're going to be.
Yeah, because it's a pipeline at the end of the day, and you have to all work together. And like for example, like if you don't, like for example, I guess the main one would be like, for example, like character artists. If a rigger gets given a model that the character it doesn't work, then it's just not going to work for the rigger. Like they can't do anything. You have to make it as easy as possible for the next person down the pipeline.
Yeah, and I know sometimes it can be a little bit like stressful, like between two parts. For us, environment artists is like design.
Yeah.
But I think if both sides know where come from, it's easier to trust each other and also like meet halfway.
Yeah.
So I think that's good thing to try to learn already in university when you do your project with teams. Like we had two projects during my time at university.
Awesome.
And I feel like I didn't use them as I should.
As in like you didn't get as much out of it that you should have.
Basically, me and my like Josef I talked about, we worked more as a freelancers. We were sitting at home and did our stuff instead of like being part of the team.
Oh right, okay, I see what you mean.
And I think like I was quite comfortable being just handed like concept and stuff and
getting told to do it.
Yeah, and then I got like kind of a realization when we had our company and our lead artist Victor Blomqvist left the studio, and there was nobody like holding everything up, and I had to start taking some responsibility, and that kind of shaped me enormous. Like
well, I think
being in the spot where you are giving also and just not taking is important, I think.
Yeah, because like I think it touches on the point that you said earlier as well. It's like planning. So like if you plan right, but then you're also aware of it's like you said. Obviously, you don't want to be like you don't want anyone to be a bottleneck. Like you don't want to have too much pressure on the person ahead of you or behind. But like that's also when it comes down. Like obviously, the next thing I could bring up, we could talk for ages, but it's like you have to realize when to stop being such a perfectionist. Like you have to obviously you have to do the job right and efficiently, but you also have to make sure that it's not delaying the next process down the line. So when you hand it on to, I don't know, say that you're a modeler and you have to hand it to a texture artist, you don't want to be delaying their time as much as like you have to be as like fair and quick as you can.
Yeah.
And it's like a balance overall. No, that's awesome. Thanks for saying all that. That's amazing. Right. Now the big question: are you ready? Are you ready to be bombarded with it? Here we go.
Yes.
The most terrifying one of all. If you're put in a situation, would you have to choose, or would you recommend, shall I say, university or online courses? Obviously, you can take both sides. There's nothing wrong with it, but say what you have to say.
So I've been talking a little bit about my university, but I also did like a 10-week course from America called Future Poly. It's not existing anymore, but it was a environment artist called Jason Stokes from Guild Wars that had it, and it kind of woke me up sitting there and doing that course, because it was 10 weeks about how to be a environment artist for the AAA industry. So for me, having university where I got the time to experiment and also got put in the spot to be alone and like take my own responsibility, and also finding friends to start the studio was one part of like my path, but also finding that mentor or finding that person who could show me a little bit where to look and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays you have so many different ways to learn. There is not only like the more expensive 10 weeks courses. You can also do like Gumroad, like smaller things, but then it's important to know that you need to know what you're looking for. And I think in the beginning it's very hard to know where to look. So finding that 10-week course that was structured like a senior wood structure pipeline was super rewarding for me.
Yeah. Like that's the thing, like when it comes to, so that's why I said earlier, like the main thing to me is asking questions. So the last month for me, for example, has been, well technically the last 7 months has been crazy for me, but in a great way. So I've been really fortunate enough to be pretty much being mentored by an incredible artist called Alex Drajomin. And Alex works in Canada. I don't even know how to describe it in terms of mentor. Like he's pretty much sacrifice so much of his time to help me out and teach me like the real truth about how to make assets, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And when I was in university, I didn't really have like I thought I was learning the correct way to make them, but obviously I made this train piece. I made this piece for like a long time, and I was really happy with how it turned out. Like I was really happy with just the overall piece and stuff.
Yeah, it
However,
looks fantastic. I've seen it. It's really cool.
thanks. Like modeling it, oh my god! Like no,
Yeah.
not modeling it, UVing it. Oh my god,
Yeah.
UVs were the most daunting thing of all time. But if I like, for example, so Alex came on the podcast before, and him just teaching me, for example, in the last few weeks, so many incredible stuff that I wish I was taught whilst at university. Like I can't thank him enough. And this is like similar to like your online course, as it was such like a wake up call. And it's to me, it's always like my biggest strength is the fact that I've always asked questions. Like I've never cared. Like obviously you have to be smart with how you're wording things and show respect to people that you don't know. Like for example, when I asked you to come on the podcast, like every time I ask someone new to come on the podcast, like I make sure to obviously approach it and just be myself and just be as kind as possible. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. And I mean, most people in the industry get happy when they get asked a question or just knowing maybe they inspire someone to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone start out and know how hard it is to approach someone that maybe work in the industry. So I think everyone knows where student comes from.
Yeah. So like, so obviously, you've had this 10-week course. You've done, was it 4 years at university?
Yeah. So or it was 3 years, and then I did started a master, but I realized that wasn't what I needed.
Okay. So I guess my question would be, so this is when the big argument comes into place. So this is why I'm happy you've brought this up. So was those 10 weeks 100 times more beneficial than going to university, or like how, like what would you, like what are the benefits of both? Like well, obviously you've said the benefits of university, but like how, so you basically just said that like the 10-week course was so crucial basically in terms of it taught you like the reality of the pipeline basically, yeah?
Yeah, but in the same time, like if I did it in the second year. If I would done it in like before university or never went to university, probably I wouldn't be able to grasp everything.
Okay.
So I think it depends where you are in your journey.
Definitely.
Because it can be very overwhelming to do one of those courses and then maybe don't move alone how you want. But I think now you also get like there is three artists having mentorships and stuff like that. So I think it's getting better. And also I think with the level 80,
they're awesome.
People, yeah, and I think also it helps younger people to know how to teach, because you get like the super good young artist getting to write an article and really think about how to explain something.
Yeah.
So it creates like in a couple of years gonna be a lot of artists like really knowing how to teach people. So I think it's gonna just be bigger and bigger, and it's gonna be harder to argue for university in the future.
Yeah. Like I think with me it's like is it pretty much so exactly what you just said there. It's like there's nothing more important than sharing like your process, in terms of helping the students wise. And I think that's also like the hard bit as well, because so it's obviously improved a lot, but there was a time when people would not share anything, or they were too afraid because they felt it was like a competition to getting a job.
I think it also was harder back then also. I think that's part of it.
I definitely agree there, because like for example, like when you hear about like Mache talking about how difficult it was in Poland, and like just like because he really goes into depth of what it was like, and like everyone who's listening, if you've not checked out, please go check out Art Cafe. It is amazing.
And also his school Learn Square.
Yeah, Learn Squared.
I've taken courses there, who I'm
trying to think what's his name. Oh god, I've almost forgot. I was watching a course on him about a month ago. Concept artist at Naughty Dog. Aaron Lamonic, that's the one.
They also do like most of the people at the Naughty Dog does Gumroad tutorials that are a little bit shorter and cheaper if you don't have the money. I think it's super important to listen a little bit to how they go about things.
Yeah, learning like the other sort of pipelines and stuff.
Yeah, and for me, quickly, I didn't only do like the future poly one. I did a couple of tutorials that was longer. So it was not only that one. It was after that one I went very deep into just using tutorials to evolve.
Yeah, just to grow.
Yeah.
So obviously, everyone who's listening, as always on the podcast, it's basically the outcome that we always end up with, and this is. But the reason why I bring this big question up is because there's so much different scenarios you can be in. Like, for example, Jacob literally just said that, like, obviously, like, there's all these different paths that you don't, like, at the end of the day, you kind of don't know where you're going to end up. You don't know where your path's going to go. And there's all these different...
And that should be a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It would be boring to know the end goal.
Exactly. And it's like, you need to realize that there's so many ways to get in the job that you want to get. Like, there's so many different routes. There's so many different stories. There's no this sort of one direct path. So if you want to learn online courses, then learn online courses. If you want to do the learning of the university method, go ahead. There's benefits from both. Obviously, everyone always says about the university method is obviously you meet more people. The connection sort of philosophy is incredibly strong just by going to university. Obviously, you build connections through online courses as well, but it really depends on how they kind of work it. Like the pipeline, I guess, or how they kind of teach it.
Yeah, and also look when you look at the university, look what students are going out there and which teacher do they have.
Yeah.
Because I mean we didn't have like really up to date teachers when it comes to industry.
Okay.
And I think it's quite important to get that, because the only time I was kind of inspired during the university time, really inspired, was when an ex-student that was in the industry came and talked to us, and that was super rewarding.
Yeah.
That's why I think for me it's important to give that back. So that's probably something I want to do more and more. The more comfortable I get to give information.
Well, you've came on the podcast and you've done great, so I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. There's so much I want to talk about, but
no problem. Like, if you have other questions, it's just
it's just because like there's so like, because obviously I can go into depth for ages about like so many different things. I'm just trying to think, because so obviously we've covered like the main 4 questions. So we've answered. So did university teach you how to be ready? What were the benefits of university? The difference between recommending uni and online courses. We've talked about some ArtStation challenges. Actually, so the one thing we'll finish off. So the thing we'll finish the podcast on is something that I've only kind of explored into recently, actually, which is what you've been including in, I think, one of your latest pieces. This is like a random sort of question, but it's one thing I think 3D artists need to kind of start dwelling into is photogrammetry. So I was just wondering, is there any sort of like, what's your thoughts on photogrammetry, and is there any sort of like resources that you think is beneficial for this? I know this is a bit of a random question, but the reason...
Nah, I think it's a super up-to-date question, because I know a lot of people that are for it and against it, and I have a kind of clear mind on it, and it's I think knowing it is super good, and be able to use it, but it's very boxy.
Yeah.
Still, when it comes to like if you scan something and you get 1 pixel density, you can't scale the object that much anymore, and also if you like scan a rock, you have only one side for the rock. Instead, if you do sorry.
No, on you go. Sorry, keep cutting you off.
If you would do like a rock in ZBrush using photogrammetry information, then you have a rock with 4 sides or that you can flip around. So it depends on the game also. I mean, you have DICE using it, and you have the Vanish of Ethan Carter being beautiful with it. So it depends on the art style also, I think. But for me, I basically learned it it's a quick process to learn. So I would say everyone can pick it up and try to not just try to find a way to use it together with the art.
Yeah.
I mean, most companies use Quixel nowadays because it's a very quick way to get something out.
For photogrammetry.
Like Quixel has like a library of photogrammetry assets.
Oh right, okay, I didn't know that. Right, okay, I'll have to look into that because I literally just use Substance.
Yeah, so and I mean like there is like there is a valid point with I remember when CG Texture, do you know that website?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was basically the thing for all studios. So you could start seeing repeating like textures for different games, and probably that's going to happen with the Quixel library.
Yeah.
But then you have to ask yourself, like, is the gamer really going to notice that, or is it just us artists seeing that?
Yeah.
And in the end, we do the games for the gamers.
Yeah. It's like it's acknowledging that. Like, I think the biggest thing to take away from this is the fact that photogrammetry is not designed to take away your art. It's designed to help you. Like, for example, if you're in need of certain things to, like, for example, I think the main thing with photogrammetry is it's mainly used for terrain. Obviously, it's not really used for. I'm not sure how much is used for buildings and other stuff, but I think it's purely terrain based.
I would say like clothes is kind of nice also because.
Oh right, okay. It can do like clothes. No way, right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, like if you do like an apartment with clothes lying around.
Awesome.
So we had it a little bit in Starbreeze on Walking Dead. I think we had it for the clothes and also the pizza cardboards were scanned.
No, that's awesome. I didn't know it was powerful enough to do something like that. Wow, gee whiz.
Yeah, and I would say, as I told you, it's super easy to pick up. So I think it's worth trying out. And I mean, it's another tool set. So
exactly.
The more tool sets you have, the easier it is to pick something. And I think everything comes down to like knowing fundamentals. So if you don't know colors, if you don't know composition, if you don't know shape language, it doesn't matter if you have everything, all the assets scanned and ready.
Yeah. So, yeah, awesome. So, thank you so much for saying that. Because I wanted to bring it up because I think it's an up to date thing. It's a thing that everyone has to start looking more into. But thank you so much, by the way, for coming on, man. It's been a privilege having you on. And
thanks for having me. It was super fun.
That was awesome. I loved that podcast. If you're listening, make sure to go once again check out his work. As always, I'll include it in the slideshow in the back. So I'll have all the different social medias, and I'll include his links in the comments below. Make sure to go follow him on ArtStation. He, like I said, he makes really incredible artwork. You'll know for yourself when you see the background. It'll blow you away.
Thanks.
So yeah, stay tuned as well for his Harry Potter piece. I'm definitely going to be looking out for that one. I can't wait for that. Make sure to subscribe if you've not already. And as always, I always make sure to try and keep the podcast out every week. If you are listening to this, I apologise if it is a few days late. It's just because I've got an interview that I really want to get, so I need to prioritise that first.
I will cross my fingers for you.
Thank you so much, man. But till next time, folks, I'll see you guys in the next video, and thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Bye.